So, have you ever been told that you have a good memory? Perhaps you've been told you have too good of a memory. Your memory is just way too good. You remember way too much. You remember the stupidest details. You carry this for way too long. Any of that sound familiar? That's what I have to say about that. Here's what I think. You have a good memory? Friggin' awesome. That's my take, right? You want to know why people tell you that your memory is too good? Because you are convicted and holding them accountable. And they don't like that. People want you to forget that they've screwed up, that they've hurt you, that they've said inappropriate things, unkind things. They want you to ignore their past transgressions. They want you to just forget about it, lighten up, let it go. And everywhere you look, you see quotes about forgiving people and letting it go and not worrying about the past. The past is the past. You know something? Here's my thing. This is how I got healthy, right? Whole wellness, this is my experience. I'm not going to say that I think it's the best idea to remember things. And I'm not going to say that it's the best and the healthiest idea to not forgive people. I'm not going to disagree with any of those quotes I just mentioned. However, I'm going to strongly disagree with the accusation that your memory somehow is too good. That is a load of crap. And if someone's telling you that, it's a big red flag. This is someone you got to be really careful of, right? Because this person is trying to take advantage. Now, I've said you've got a good memory to someone before. I meant, holy cow, how can you remember 4 years ago when we were walking alongside the park fence and there was that butterfly that was really cool and had stripes and polka dots and 3 antennae and blah, blah, blah. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not accusing anyone of having a good memory. It's a big compliment when you have a good memory and your brain is able to retain details. But what I'm talking about is when you're accused of having too good a memory. And accused meaning the accusation, the statement will be made in the midst of, and this is how you know that you're being accused of something and someone's trying to just get out of it. Their back's against the wall and they throw this at you. Oh, your memory is just too good. It's when you're in the middle of a heated argument or discussion and you say to them something, you refer to something that is relevant to the current conversation, and you say, this happened, this specific thing happened 3 months ago. This is what I said. This is what you said. Or I have a picture, I have a copy of the text, whatever. And they say, no response, no comment, no acknowledgement, no denial, nothing about what you just said. Hey, what about this? What about that? What about the text? What about this? And their response to you is, your memory is just whack. It's too good. That's their response, as though that explains why they did what they did or said what they said. As though everything can be explained by the problem of you having too good of a memory. No, If you remember details of something and you say, look, I have this text on my phone where you said blah, 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 blah. You were going to be so, you're going to meet me at such and such place at such and such time, and you didn't show up and you didn't text or whatever, blah, blah, or whatever the case is. And you point it out to someone, you hold them accountable, and their back is up against the wall, and they come back with, your memory is just too good. That's how you know, right? That's how you know. And here's the thing. When someone puts that to you in a response to something you say to them, let's say you're in a discussion and you say, what about this thing that happened? Because you say, you're having a disagreement about something, you have a need that's not being met, and they say, oh, tell me one time where I, didn't meet that need. And you start listing all of the times that they let you down in this way, this need that you have, that you've told them time and time again that you have, and they've agreed and oh yeah, I'll do better, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I forgot, I was running late, blah, blah, blah. And you have the discussion for the 78th time, and you say, okay, 3 months ago it happened again. And they say, oh my gosh, your memory is just too good. That's what I'm talking about. When they say that to you, this is what they're saying. Knock it off. Quit trying to hold me accountable. You're not going to win. I'm always going to find a way out. I'm going to drive you crazy, so you might as well give up. I don't know too many people who have said, your memory is way too good, in an accusatory tone where the individual was not toxic. In almost every circumstance where I've heard your memory is way good, it's not your memory is way good. Like, bravo, I can't believe you remembered that. Good job. It is your memory's too good, because there is no such thing as too good of a memory. Now, I've done some research on this, right? I went right to the internet and got some professional opinions. And they're all across the board. Excuse me while I have a sip of tea. Scientists, doctors, medical professionals of all kinds, they completely disagree on this, right? So you may very well have a therapist or a best friend or someone close to you that genuinely has your best interest at heart that is telling you too good a memory can sometimes be bad. And they might be right, because here's the difference. This is the hinging point. When you have too good of a memory, and by that I mean an ability to recall details and events in consequential order or sequential order, whatever the word is, or particular details about an event that took place, then you have an excellent recollection of the general relationship, health of the relationship, right? Because you're able to remember how things happened, what happened, how it was said, and empaths tend to have emotional radars on at all times, and so they tend to, highly empathetic people or highly sensitive people called HSPs, they have their emotional radars turned on at all times, and they are constantly picking up vibes and energies from people. And that is why sometimes they get overwhelmed and need significant downtime, because they're just picking up negative juju, is what I call it, juju. from people are too much energy, too much conflicting and negative energy, and they need to get away from it and center themselves again and find peace and calm again. So when someone tells you that you have too good of a memory, oftentimes what they're telling you is just, I don't want you to hold me accountable. I don't want you to remember these things. I'm not comfortable with this. I don't want this to be an issue between us. You must forget about my past transgressions because I will not be accountable for them. I will not reconcile them with you. I will not try to improve. I will not care if I do it again and again and again and again and never improve, right? But if you have a loved one who's saying, yeah, maybe you do have a little bit too good of a memory, I can see how it might be hurting, perhaps reevaluate this statement and judge for yourself whether it's an accusation or whether it's said in love to you. Because sometimes what happens if you have someone who's genuinely kind and loving to you and has your best interests at heart and behaves respectfully towards you and honors you, and they tell you that, yeah, you do have kind of too good of a memory, maybe what they're actually saying is you haven't started healing. You're dwelling on some past hurts that either may not be resolved or you've carried for so long, they're noticing a change in you where you're feeling poisoned or whatever. Now, the toxic people in your life are often the ones that are carrying the poison and just embracing it, and they're living out their lives pouring toxins into others and throwing them, massacring people everywhere they go with their toxicity because they've absorbed their abuse and trauma, carried it with them, embraced it, held on to it, never evaluated, never processed their emotions, never forgave, never moved on, never healed. Because the difference is when you have a really good memory, but you have awareness and you're very healthy, then you can successfully walk through the steps of getting better. And then your excellent memory is not a problem for you. All of a sudden, your excellent memory is helping you filter out people because you will never forget the first incident and then the second incident. Then your radar's on and the healthy boundary goes up and you're like, okay, I need to keep you a little bit more at arm's length because you did it one time, you did it a second time, now there's a third time. Not gonna happen. No more. You know what I'm saying? So your loved one who might be telling you in love and in kindness that you may have too good of a memory, maybe what they're saying is maybe you're holding on to your past hurts and traumas too much, and maybe you should consider healing. But if you're being accused in the middle of a heated discussion or argument in response to you holding someone accountable, if that person responds in an accusing way and says, your memory is too good, that's their response for their poor behavior, that's when you know, right? Now, I'll give you a tough situation that I had where it took me so long to figure out whether this person was actually having my best interest at heart or not. So my former boss, right? I told you that he was a great guy, and one of the problems in the office, the reason the situation with the narcissists and the other workers in the office got out of control is because my boss, without going into great detail, well, I'm not going to name names, but let's just say this. He had a major personality disorder that was diagnosed, that he had been hospitalized for, that he was receiving regular treatments for and was regularly seeing a therapist for and was on medications for. But he basically, I don't know what the proper word is to use here, but he was unable to, for whatever reason, be the boss that he needed to be. He needed to step in at times and hold people accountable and diffuse arguments and meet with people and have one-on-ones and give them coaching about improved behavior and disciplinary action, or, you know, improved like graduated, scaled, you know, and hold them accountable. He was absolutely incapable of holding people accountable. There's could be a variety of reasons for this, but by way of an example, the accounting manager who, when I was hired, had been with the company for, I don't know, 9 years, 10 years maybe, when I was hired the second time in 2014. On average, after I was trained for several years, this man worked. Now, this is the accounting manager. He worked 25 hours a week and was salaried exempt. So he made his regular income every week, regardless of how many or how few hours he worked. And he worked about 21 to 25 hours. I actually tracked his time a couple of different weeks, and it averaged between 21 and 24 hours per week. Because I was just curious. He would come in about 10 a.m. and he would go for a smoke break at 10:55, and then he would go to lunch at 11, and then he would take another smoke break at like 11:20, and he would return to the office about noon, quarter to noon or noon. And many, many days of the week, he was gone by 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And he generally took a couple smoke breaks in the afternoon for like 10 minutes at a time. So on an average week, he was working about 20 hours a week, 25 hours a week. Yep. So my boss, the vice president of operations, was okay with this. There was a ton of work to be done, a ton. And they were paying overtime to some people that shouldn't have made overtime, because that's the whole purpose of salary. Anyway, my point is, that's a perfect example. So the accounting manager got away with, for many years, working fewer hours and doing much less work for the vice president, because and he was not one of these people that was a stellar performer by any means. He was probably a worse performer than the narcissist who selected me as her target, actually. She was a powerhouse. She was a hard worker, and I'll explain all that in another video. But she put him to shame. I put him to shame. One of the other part-time accounting employees put him to shame. I mean, he was lazy. He did the bare minimum. But he was an excellent brown noser, and he took advantage. He knew exactly where he could take advantage in his situation. And he did. He took advantage to the fullest. Sorry. It's cold in my house, and I like my hot tea. Anyway, so that just kind of gives you an idea of the capacity that my former boss had to hold his management team accountable. He didn't hold them accountable at all. I don't know where his head was about it. You know, I guess he had a minimum list of tasks that if they got done, that was good enough for him. I don't know. It makes no sense to me. I've never worked in a place where someone could fluff off so bad. I really didn't. But that was my boss. He was, like I said in other videos, he's a great guy, very personable, very friendly, but he had some serious issues, and he was completely incapable of holding people accountable. So one day we had a phone conversation, right? because when I left on good terms in the spring of 2019 or the early summer of 2019. I left on good terms. There was no major anything negative. He knew why I was leaving. I was truthful with him. About 80% truthful with him. There were a few things that I just knew that I couldn't talk to him about because he wouldn't understand it. And this was one of them. You know, there was at one point I did try to tell him, but I don't think he got my initial point. And he said, oh, I don't care about that. And so I was like, well, if you don't care about that, you're not going to care about this other stuff. So I just didn't follow up with him. Anyway, so about, let's see, my last day for that company was like mid-June 2019. And in October of 2019, I had a phone conversation with him. And it was, I don't know, hour and a half, hour maybe conversation. We had talked a couple of times between the time I left and this October phone call. But in that conversation, I asked him, I said, there were tons of things that we talked about. And I said, well, this happened or that happened or why. We were kind of having some memories and reevaluating what had happened and all that. And I remember at one point in time, he said to me throughout the conversation, at one point in time, he said something to the effect of, maybe I asked him what he felt or how I might have let him down or something like that. Or, you know, I might have opened the conversation or invited this comment from him. But there were several points at which I said to him, I go, when I told you that I was probably going to start looking for another job, let me cut real quick back to spring of 2019. I did give him a heads up that it was time for me to start looking for another job. Before I officially resigned, I gave him like 2 weeks to think over whether it was, you know, if he was cool with the fact that I was going to start looking for something else or if he was going to try to save me as an employee. Because he had told me, give me a heads up if you've ever reached your limit. Let me know if you've gotten to the point where you're just done. And so I did. It didn't amount to a hill of beans. I don't know even why he asked me that. What was the point? Because I wasn't going to threaten to leave. But if I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to start looking for another job, and you want me to tell you that, why? If you're not going to try to save me. I mean, talk about, if you're dealing with this kind of situation, please let me know. I want to hear about your story. Please share it with us. I'm so curious to hear if you've been through this similar situation. But anyway, so back to 2019, October, I had been gone for several months. They had their struggles or whatever. And I'll get into that again, like I said, in another video. But he said I had told him, I said, I expected when I told you that I was going to have to start looking for another job because I'd had it up to here with things. I said, I expected you to do your job as the boss and step up and say, okay, enough crap and drama in this office. We had such a small office. It was literally one of those things where I was like, literally, why can't we all just get along? Why can't we just treat each other respectfully, act professionally, and produce, right? No, there's all this petty, who wants control of the office supplies and the mail and stupid stuff like that. I'll tell you all about that in another video. But like I said, it was so ridiculous. And I told him that in the phone conversation. I said, you had told me, you had asked me to please let you know if and when I ever got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to start looking for something else because this is getting out of control. I've had it. And I let you know, and then you never did anything about it. So yeah, you let me down. And at some point in the conversation, and I think it was at that point in the conversation, I'm not 100% sure about this because I can't remember the exacts of our conversation, what came first, the chicken or the egg. But he said to me, you know what I think one of your biggest challenges has been? And I said, what? I'm curious, you know. At the time, I still respected him as a person. I think probably just because he was nice. But nice doesn't cut it, really. Side note, nice doesn't cut it. He said, I think you have too good of a memory. And at that time, when he told me that in October of 2019, my very first thought was, yes, I remember everything. And that probably has hurt me because I have not ignored a lot of the stuff that my narcs have said and done, and what you've said and done and promised me and let me down time and again. And yeah, I suppose you're probably right, you know. And I hung up the phone with him, and I spent tons of time reevaluating our conversation. And it was months later where I was like, hello? No wonder he doesn't want me to have such a good memory, because I called him on all his crap, right? Like I said, no hard feelings. The guy's great. Still, yes, I can say that. But he's not a good boss. And I don't know, like, I'm not a professional. Like I've always said in my videos, like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not certified. I haven't studied this in a classroom or have formal training or anything like that. But I don't know what his personal medical issues are or how they affect his ability to be a boss and manage people, but he simply does not have the ability to. He does not hold people accountable. He promises people things and doesn't deliver. Over and over and over. And I was like completely blind to this. I'd be like watching my clock going, you promised this, where is it? And I'd wait and wait, and I would just have faith. I would trust him. I'd be like, okay, he's taking care of it. He's on it. Over and over and over again. And then I'd be like, why is nothing happening? Why is nothing getting better? Because his word meant nothing, sadly. Best of intentions, zero reliability. What does your relationship hinge on? When you have a relationship with anybody, you know, can you count on them? Are they dependable? Are they trustworthy? Are they a person of their word? Do they have integrity? And to me, he absolutely did not. And then he turned around and accused me of having too good of a memory. Why is that a bad thing? Because I'm holding you accountable. I'm holding other management accountable. I'm holding other owners accountable. I'm holding other team members accountable. It's not appropriate to rage at the office. It's not appropriate to curse. It's not appropriate to be controlling and manipulative and cunning and go to the bar and talk about business. I mean, there's just certain behavioral standards from an HR perspective that you just don't do, right? And the standards were all very gray. Because like I said, they never had an HR department. I was the first one. And I had a senior mentor. And when I say a senior mentor, I'm talking about a certified HR professional who was my mentor, and she was my former HR director. So it's not like I was running blind through this. I had someone who'd been in the biz for 30 years, and she was a consultant, and she knew exactly what she was doing. She was extremely knowledgeable and experienced in HR, human resources. So it's not like I was kind of flailing and didn't know what I was doing and, you know, kind of walking blindly through this process of HR. I had some HR experience, and I also had a mentor on the side. So it's kind of like ridiculous, really, and exhausting. So when someone, and I don't care what the situation is, I really don't. It can be work, it can be romantic relationship, it can be a friendship. When someone accuses you, and you'll know the level of their intent when they say to you, you have too good of memory. You'll know their level of intent and you'll know what they mean by the conditions of the conversation when they say it and their manner of speaking to you. If it's said in love, it'll be said with love. Genuinely, honestly, heartfelt, and kind to you, with your best interests at heart, because they can see you walking down a path that's very hurtful, holding on to and embracing your hurts and not starting the process of healing, and maybe ruminating over your past hurts. And that's how having too good of a memory can be misconstrued. But if you're being accused, you'll get the scowl, you'll get the squinty eyes, you'll get the snarl, and it'll be in direct response of you saying, what about this behavior that you had that was entirely inappropriate? That's what the defense is going to be. That's what the explanation is going to be for their behavior, because you remembered it. Shame on you for remembering. Till next time, thanks so much for joining Whole Wellness with Ann. Take care, guys.